Tyreek Hill in trouble. Maybe, maybe not. Police called responding to an assault in progress involving Miami Dolphin wide receiver Tyreek Hill. And as you can see right here in this very tiny print inside the photo, Tyreek Hill involved in a domestic dispute with wife. Reportedly, they're going through a divorce. Another report reads, Tyreek Hill's mother-in-law called the police in fear for her daughter's safety per the police report. She claims that she witnessed Tyreek Hill throw a laptop on the floor and grab his daughter and begin walking toward the balcony of the residence following an argument with his wife. In the process of filing a divorce, the two are not getting along, and there's obviously trouble in Tyreek Hill's camp right now, as Tyreek Hill is reportedly unhappy, wanting to potentially be traded. Maybe not. There's all kinds of rumors, news. He throws cryptic tweets up like peace sign. He does that a lot, though, so no one knows if it's even related to him wanting to be traded. But he did, at the end of the season, say he's out, he's gone, he's done. Walked it back, and since has been very, very weird in his tweets. And we've been talking about how this guy is showing signs of Antonio Brown, the early stages of Antonio Brown. That's just an opinion. You know, that's just the way that it looks. Who knows what really is happening, but we're going to break it all down right now. The Fantasy Football Show begins now. Not looking good. Not looking good. And I was already off drafting Tyreek Hill. I sure as hell am not drafting him in a single league now. The Fantasy Football Show begins now.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com studios,
it's the Fantasy Football Show.
Live! Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
So, here we are discussing more Tyreek Hill news. Obviously, this is not good for his fantasy football value. He's going in the second round, which is a mistake anyway. So you bet your bottom dollar that you walk into my live stream and I'm telling you to.
You've just been Smitty
Alert. Stand down order in effect.
Don't even consider drafting Tyreek Hill. You can't. I mean, we'll adjust and adapt if his ADP tanks, but we don't even know, first of all, if anything's going to come of this. Police responded to a domestic dispute, and they went to an active assault, potential domestic assault in progress, but there's no word that he was arrested. So it's probably a he said, she said type of thing. But at this point, it's more about this is a cancer in the locker room wherever he's at. And he's also at the point where he may drop off, even if he wasn't in drop-off mode last year. If it really was about the wrist injury, if it really was about Tua Tagovailoa, this is still a player that very much is in the realm of drop-off anyway. So it could be an ironic coincidence that we have him tank and fall off the face of the earth in 2025, unrelated to his 2024 ups and downs. But I don't know what is going to happen at this point. I also heard a report. Again, most of this is smoke and mirrors. We don't even know what's true, so I'm starting and leading with that. But there were like a bunch of little tiny reports yesterday being tossed around, probably from one source, and everybody just posts it, but saying that the Dolphins are growing tired of Tyreek Hill's antics and they're looking to potentially trade him. Logic would tell you that that is probably the case. Logic would tell you that he still wants to be traded. Logic would tell you that he's going through something that I don't know if many of you have gone through. Maybe some of you have, maybe some of you haven't, maybe some of you are about to. But a divorce or a big life change like divorce or death in the family or anything like that can cause you to be maybe not in your right state of mind. And so you got to understand that he's probably, even if this isn't Antonio Brown-ish behavior, he's definitely not in the best place he could be. And, prayers up to him in that regard. No one wishes ill will upon anybody. I certainly don't. I never want somebody to be in a bad spot mentally. I never wish ill will or decline or defeat or anybody's situation to be worse or not good at all. I want everybody to prosper. This world's got enough room for all of us to do it and do it live.
You've just been Smitty.
But this is a business. And what we do, we need to make business decisions. And we need to make sure we are drafting players that can succeed. And I'm telling you right now, I have zero plans of drafting Tyreek Hill. Didn't have any plans of drafting Tyreek Hill. And this cements in and secures the fact that I will never own Tyreek Hill in 2025 unless I'm auto drafting because I sleep in a little too late on a Monday and I've got 2 pending on the clock Underdog fantasy slow drafts and he gets auto drafted on accident. I have drafted him in a couple best ball drafts. Promo code Smitty, by the way. Here's the link. I'll drop it if anybody wants to smash some best ball. Do it and do it live. Here it is. So there you go. I think that, I regret drafting him. Any draft that I may have drafted him. There was a time where it looked like a good, pretty good value. But that time is since passed, and that has nothing to do with this. This is just more piling on bad on top of bad. We have, let's see here, Michael with a 17-month membership question or comment says, what do you think of Yoshi Voss playing at 220 pounds? I like Yoshi Voss a lot right now. He's probably one of my favorite, end of the best ball draft territory type grabs. Underdog code Smitty. Link in the description. Link has been, it's pinned now in the live chat. And he goes practically free. And I think what gets lost in the shuffle is that this guy is watching Higgins get paid. This guy's watching Jamar Chase get paid. Chase Brown's on the map. And people think, Yoshi Voss is not going to be a big deal. But look, Burrow throws a lot. The Bengals throw a lot. And so I like Yoshi Voss a lot at the end of the draft. But this is like one of your bench wide receivers that you hope you never have to use. But yeah, I like Yoshi Voss. Good question. Thank you, Ballers, for becoming a loyal member. Appreciate you. I don't know, guys. Call into the show and let's discuss Tyreek Hill. And let me know if you actually are considering drafting this guy, because I'm interested in hearing an opinion or two from people. I'm not saying I'm going to take kindly to the opinion, but I'll certainly listen to you, and you can make your rhyme and reason of it. But who here is drafting Tyreek Hill? And you can call in and tell me you're not. I imagine most people in here will not be drafting Tyreek Hill because we've been promoting that for weeks or more than that, months. I don't know. But I'd love to know if anybody's saying, I'm still drafting him. Why? Because of fandom, or because you're pot committed, because you own him in a Dynasty league, so you're trying to make some redraft leagues make you feel better about the value. So, dial in and let's hear what you think.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Tyreek Hill. Jeez, man. The thing about this one, though, we aren't hearing any arrests or anything. So just keeping that in mind, there's potentially no, repercussions coming from this particular incident. No one's suggesting that a suspension's coming. No one's suggesting that he got arrested yet. I'm refreshing all my sources. Mind you, this is not coming from any major networks or news sources, so this is kind of like on the outskirts of the major news that we would usually run across. This is like the beat reporter level, so nothing from Schefter, nothing from Rappaport, nothing from ESPN. It's kind of weird that a lot of these outlets, the bigger ones, don't touch anything like this sometimes. I don't know why. I think they try and stay away from it because they don't want to get caught up in some sort of false allegation or whatever. But a lot of people will report on it from the lower levels first, and then as it gets more steam or there's actual police report that someone can actually get their hands on and view, then it might pop onto the scene. But right now it's just a very local, all alleged reports like this one from Andy Slater. We've got this one over here. Let me see if I can put this one on screen as well. This one's coming from Dove, who says that, hold on one second. Let me go This one's now coming from, let me read this from local10.com. So Tyreek Hill involved in domestic dispute with his wife, Sonny. Police say Miami Dolphin wide receiver Tyreek Hill was involved in a domestic dispute with his wife at a high-rise condominium in sunny Isle Beach on Monday, according to an incident report obtained by Local 10 News. On Wednesday, officers say Sonny responded, or the police department responded to a 2 p.m. call on the 18,000 block of Collins Avenue following a report that assault was in progress. When they arrived, police said that they spoke with Hill, his wife, and I believe the mother-in-law, and got both sides or three sides of the story, whatever. Police were told that they were living as a couple since November, shortly after the birth of her granddaughter. This was coming from the mother-in-law. She described Hill, 31 years of age, as very aggressive and impulsive, and said that she feared for her daughter's safety. And the report stated all of that. Authorities said that the police were called, and they were claiming that Tyreek Hill threw a laptop on the floor, grabbed his daughter, and began walking toward the balcony of the residence following an argument with his wife. Police were told that Hill had been arguing more frequently and stated that whenever she gives her opinion on anything to discuss, he becomes angry and throws objects around. She said the two had been attending couples therapy, but is not working out. During the most recent argument, police said that they were told that Hill wasn't involved. Wait, hold on one second. During the most recent argument, police said that she told Tyreek Hill that he wasn't involved enough in their child. And she then said Tyreek Hill became irritated and without malice grabbed the baby and began walking with her, they wrote. I don't know what the whole balcony thing is. I don't know if they're trying to suggest something with the balcony, but that keeps coming up. I have the same rights as a father as her mother, and I can take my baby whenever I want. Police said that he admitted to grabbing the baby. She told them that they may have unintentionally. I don't know. I'm not going to get into any more of this. I got some other calls. Hold on, Travis. Let me merge these calls in real quickly. This is a wild situation. It's unfortunate, but I do feel like Tyreek Hill is showing some signs of like early Antonio Brown unraveling. Just a lot of the aggressiveness, a lot of the things that you hear about him getting irate, it just irrational. Seems like that's what we're getting out of Tyreek Hill now. And, his antics are very similar. Wanting to be traded. Grass is always greener. Want to do this, want to do that. Sporadic, ups and downs. Want to be traded, don't want to be traded. Mouthing off, not mouthing off. It's very odd that he didn't even complain during the season about not getting the ball from a public perspective. And then at the end of the year, he did. So it's like, you just don't know what you're getting out of him. He seems completely up and down. Travis, go ahead. You're live, and I'll swing around the phone line. I got about 3 or 4 of you on here. Go ahead, Travis.
Hey, redraft, like you said, I'm staying away from them. Seen a couple people in the comments, and I have a similar question. Like, in Dynasty, unless you can find someone to overpay, you might as well just hold them, right? See what happens. No one's going to pay.
I don't know. I don't necessarily think that's the way I would look.
What would you take for him, I guess?
Yeah, I think with anything like this, you use them as just icing on a cake. I don't think I hold them. I think I try and take Hill, and I add him to something to slightly upgrade that something. Okay. That's kind of the way I look at it, because I feel like he's going to fall off anyway if it's Dynasty. So if that's moving the 1.3 to the 1.2, or 1.4 to the 1.2 in a rookie draft, I like the idea of that. It would be something along the lines of you want to go get Bucky, and you got this running back that is, in some people's eyes, very close to Bucky anyway, and you upgrade that. It would be maybe taking your QB that's not anywhere near a Joe Burrow and moving up to Joe Burrow. It would maybe be something along the lines of trying to get into a Laporta. Maybe you've got another tight end. I mean, I just think you can easily throw them in. The problem people have with trading a player like this, or trading an older player at all, even if Hill didn't have this news break today at all, just trading Tyreek Hill prior to today, is people try and do these 1-for-1s. And the bottom line is, when you do 1-for-1, You're literally saying, well, I'm getting rid of this and I'm getting this. I'm not taking all this responsibility and risk with Tyreek Hill. No. But the moment you give someone Tyreek Hill and something else for one thing, it lays the risk off. And so now Tyreek Hill becomes a wild card play. Whereas the person's like, well, I kind of like, and all you got to do is find the person that views these two pieces as very similar. You want the Bucky, and they got the running back that in their mind, and not everybody's going to feel this way, but in their mind, they're saying, hell, I like that running back as much as Bucky kind of. So I get a wild card play in Tyreek Hill. You try doing a 1-for-1, you're never going to get it done.
Yeah, it's a good idea because his ceiling is gone. He's never going to be what he was, and it's only going to decline from here, even if he had a good year or something. So you're probably right where it's better to move on now if you can do something like that.
And there's really no good explanation for drafting him in redraft because he's going around 2. And even if he was to fall, let's just pretend he falls with this news, and he probably won't because he's like mid-second, sometimes high second, but mid-second, sometimes low second. But I don't think without an arrest or anything, I don't know that this is going to even penetrate the major news, and people that are drafting in grandma leagues might not even know this happens. But it depends how this goes. Maybe there's going to be more to this story. But right now, let's pretend like there's no arrest. It doesn't amount to anything. The police took everybody's side of the story, and there was some arguing. There was a mother-in-law involved. We know how that can be. So let's pretend Tyreek Hill didn't actually do much wrong but get mad, and it was an irrational call of, hey, we were screaming and yelling like a lot of couples do, and the mother-in-law acted like I was dangerous or something. Let's pretend that that's how it goes. Tyreek Hill, if he falls into round 3, into the 3rd, I'm taking, obviously Bucky is probably a second rounder, so he's probably not on the board, but let's just pretend we're going through all of our options. I'm taking Bucky. I'm taking Kyron. I'm taking Josh Allen. I'm taking Breece Hall. I'm taking all these players. JSN. I'm taking a plethora of 3rd rounders over Tyreek Hill. So I'm certainly not taking him in round 2, but I don't see a world where I even consider drafting him in the third round. There's just no way. If he falls to the 4th round, we'll have conversations about how many shares could one have with still laying off the risk. But at the end of the day, if JD5 is still a 4th rounder, how in the hell am I passing on JD5 over Tyreek Hill? I'm not. Let's say I already drafted a quarterback though, and I don't need JD5, and I get to the 4th round. Maybe we talk about that. But the bottom line is he has a 2nd round ADP. So the line in the sand is so far downstream, it's almost a nonsensical conversation to have until he falls dramatically, which he probably won't. So right now, Tyreek Hill's a complete avoid. Complete. In all formats. For me.
Yep, I agree.
Let me go around the phone line real quickly. We had the 214 caller call. You've been on here for a little bit. What's your name, bro? I keep forgetting to put you in the system.
What's up, man? It's Jordan Blue.
Jordan Blue, that's right. Jordan Blue. What's up, Jordan Blue?
Hey, Smitty. I want to say, I'll be the first to say it. It's all good. I would still draft Tyreek Hill and redraft in the format that I'm playing in. I'm playing on ESPN leagues, and he's going like 5th, 6th round.
No, he's not.
And
Jordan, are you the same guy? Are you the same guy? Are you the same guy that we had an argument about somebody's ADP being where it wasn't?
Nah, that's not me.
Who was that, Trav? Was that Jordan? I feel like somebody called in the other day. We hung up on him, but they started to tell us they were getting. Who was it? They were telling us they were getting like. Who was it that was? Someone was telling us.
Okay, maybe not 6th round, but he's going in the 5th round where I'm drafting.
Okay.
And,
well, let me just tell you something.
I'm not that guy though. But let me just say,
hold on. Let me just correct because people are listening to this and they're thinking that he's going to the 5th round. He's not. You're doing mock drafts, correct?
Right.
Yeah, you're not. You have no actual evidence. Mock drafts are dead.
I've done underdog drafts too, and I know where he's going in those. I've done the best ball drafts.
He's going around 2. Okay, but Jordan, listen to me. I'm trying to educate people listening that hear that and they think there's a world where you're getting Tyreek in round 5. You're not. Mock drafts are dead, bro. I haven't done a mock draft. I'm not saying I shouldn't do more of them, but I haven't done a mock draft on this channel in probably over 2 years. Mock drafts are dead. Do you know what mock drafts, how they work? They load up, especially on ESPN. There's one at 2:21 p.m. There's one at 2:25 p.m. There's one at 2:27 p.m. And they fill with computer teams. And you have this ADP that just keeps piling on trash ADP over and over and over. And if someone's going in there and they're trying to do their rookie draft inside a normal mock draft, or they're doing some weird strategy and then they bail in round 3 and the data just keeps piling on and on and on. You cannot use ESPN mock drafts to try and think you're going to get something on draft day. The only thing I'll say is, yes, you might walk away or walk into an ESPN draft where the pre-rank data is going off of some of that ADP, and that could influence it. So if Tyreek Hill, you go into your actual ESPN draft and Tyreek Hill is sitting there in a 4.8 ADP suggested rank, that he might slip a little, but you still will have people grabbing him way earlier than that when they look down and they see Tyreek Hill there. Mock drafts are dead. They're dead. Anybody using mock drafts to prepare, when people go, yeah, I'm getting him in the 5th round. You're not getting him in the 5th round. You haven't drafted once getting him in the 5th round. You've mock drafted. That's not getting him. That's mocking him. In saying you're getting him in the 5th round means you're drafting on Underdog. You're drafting in an actual league. That's all I'm saying is don't expect Tyreek Hill in round 5. You said round 5, 6. That is asinine. You're not going to get it. I don't care what mock draft you're doing. I'm just trying to set you straight so you don't think you're getting Tyreek Hill in round 6.
Ball, but I'm just saying. I will say this. I'll keep it real life. I'm a Chiefs fan, right? So when he left to go to the Dolphins, I didn't expect for him to be the number 1 overall wide receiver, but he did that. Next year, he did the same thing, 1,300 yards, at least 2 seasons in a row. This last year was a big disappointment. But what I'm seeing is, yes, he is very antic-driven. He is very gimmicky-driven. He loves the attention. He loves getting the ball. But nothing can take away from this man. Nothing. No one should disrespect this man as far as his craft. He is.
But here.
Finding a way to get behind the defense. Okay, and he's capable of being a top
Jordan,
5
I gotta cut you off here because
even if it's a small stretch in the season.
Jordan, no. You're talking as if he can't fall off a cliff. Like, no offense, but listen to me, Jordan. I'm trying to help.
No, he can. He
Jordan,
can.
Listen, I'm trying to help you.
I'm just saying he's capable of a small
but you
stretch.
just came in and said he's capable. No one can disrespect his craft. You gotta players drop off, bro. This is the point where we got to decide: is this the point of no return for him? You can't just draft someone because they did it. Like what happened last year, what happened the year before, what happened the year before. None of that matters. You got to assess the situation right now. What's his headspace like? How is his headspace going to affect his play? Is he even playing good going into a bad headspace season? And the answer is no. So there's a lot of red flags. You're the kind of person, no offense, but you're the kind of person that drafts someone because they deserve respect. You can't draft somebody. What you just said is you're trying to prop up Tyreek Hill for 2025 because he deserves it. What's he going to do, Jordan? You draft him because of what he's going to do.
There's a plethora of players that I would rather draft.
Okay, but why
wide receivers that I would rather draft in his ADP range.
But what's his craft have to do? You don't know. His craft is bad right now. You can't say I'm going to go 2 years deep and say, you got to put. Yeah, at some point you got to take this guy. What's he proving? What's he doing for you to prove that?
That's tough to say when he didn't have his quarterback last year too, though. That's tough to say that when he didn't have his quarterback.
Okay, well, when he did have his quarterback, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything all year, Jordan.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
I'm just trying to get to the logic here. I'm just trying to get to the logic here. Then how do you have to respect his craft if he didn't do anything all year last year, and we're assuming that he's going to get traded, have to migrate into a new environment. If not, he's staying where he was, which was not good. So tell me how. I'm just trying to get to the meat and potatoes here. How do we have to respect his craft? Because the way you were talking, you're like, look, you might want to, he did bad last year, I get, but no one can take away what he can do. That's talking nonsense, bro. You have to be logical. This is a business. Treat your fantasy football teams and evaluation as a business. What have you done for me lately? What are you doing walking into the season to make me forgive what you're not bringing to the table or bringing to the table last year? The CO, what we call it? Where do I have it here? Some of the COD, the carryover or COT, carryover trust. Where's my carryover trust button? I got it somewhere in here. Here it is.
Carryover trust, COT. The amount of fantasy trust carried over from previous year.
So how much carryover trust does a guy like Tyreek Hill have? Zero, bro. I'm sorry to go at your take so hard, but when someone says something on the phone line like that, and they just move on, I gotta address it. There's zero evidence that Tyreek Hill is gonna bring you thunder in 2025.
No, that's true. I mean, consistently is what I'm saying. I'm saying he cannot be consistent as he was in the past. But I'm saying that he can have a small stretch of being
maybe
somewhat usable, somewhat trustable, somewhat startable. I'm saying that just like Devontae Adams, just like these veteran receivers that are very good at their craft. This is one of those guys that are very crafty veterans. Cooper Kupp. How are we supposed to trust Cooper Kupp with Sam Darnold? We don't know. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. Cooper Kupp's
agreed,
craft, he's so good at what he does.
But here's the difference. Kupp is going so late. Kupp is going at a zero risk territory. That was like the comment yesterday. I haven't responded to it yet, but someone's like, "Oh, Smitty talking up Mahomes again. Like, what are you doing? I'm never gonna fall for that trick again." Like, Mahomes is going in the 7th round. You gotta walk out of the room, as my example. Close the door, take a deep breath, walk back in, open the door, and re-examine with a clear head where the players are going. Tyreek Hill is still going in round 2. He's not going around 5 or 6. Don't spit that out. That's not true.
I'm not taking him in the 2nd round.
Yeah, you better not take him anywhere near there. All right. Anything else, Jordan Blue?
Rashee Fried Rice. And I want you to talk a little bit more about Calvin Ridley, man. I know we have some top feelings about Calvin Ridley, but he could be a dark horse.
Jordan Blue hanging on
top
to you.
15.
You're an underdog guy. You like hanging on to
yeah.
You're a nostalgic person, bro. You got to let that shit go. You got to let that shit. You even talking about Cal.
But I
you
mean,
want me to wait? You want me to waste time on Calvin Ridley? You want me to waste time on Calvin Ridley after you just pulled that Tyreek Hill as a 6th rounder, and you can't discredit what Tyreek Hill brings to the table at that 2nd round ADP. Come on, bro. We're not talking about Calvin Ridley. And this goes to adjust and adapt. It is what it is. Even though we were high on Calvin Ridley, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You can't look, as Tony Soprano said, the most boring form of conversation is remember when. It's time to move forward. And Ridley could be a bench player, sure. But who the hell's drafted?
He could be a 4th wide receiver.
Yeah, but who the hell needs to hear about Calvin Ridley? Who was the other guy you said? Oh, Rashee Rice. Love Rashee Rice. Now, Rashee Rice we
got to make that video for Rice, man.
He's on that Tyreek Hill track, though, in terms of, off the field stuff. But I think Rashee Rice is probably in a better space right now than Tyreek Hill. Like, was Rice not doing good things? Yes. Was Rice a coward for running off the freeway with his entourage after they caused a multi-million-dollar traffic accident, left a mother and kid in a car? Thank God they weren't seriously injured, but they didn't even check. They just left a mother and a kid in a car, went to the hospital. So coward. But this is a business. I drafted Kamara. Yeah. We promoted drafting Kamara after chastise him every single day on the live stream for his antics in that hotel elevator in Vegas. but it's a business. Rashee Rice is gonna explode, and he looks fantastic right now already. So ahead of schedule. Here's a photo of him. I haven't put it on my Instagram yet. I said I would, of him pushing a sled with weights on it, just pile driving this thing across the field. He's so ahead of schedule. I have zero qualms, questions, or concerns about Rashee Rice being ready for week 1 unless he's suspended, which I'm guessing a 1 to 2 game suspension is the max we're going to see. And the earlier that happens, the better, unless they can move it to next year, which is certainly possible.
So I have a valid question now. Since we're not liking Tyreek Hill's ADP, are we putting Waddle on the midseason monster list as a potential? Because they got to throw the ball. So is Waddle gonna rise in this scenario?
I don't know. I don't think
I don't mind that.
Not one of my favorite players, that's for sure. I mean, injuries, he hasn't.
Me either.
I certainly am open-minded if Tyreek Hill's gone to move him up my rankings, but I have a feeling because he's too high for me to draft now, or I find myself not loving the value. It's not that he's that high. I kind of imagine that if Tyreek Hill gets traded, his value is going to go way above my territory of comfort. So to be honest with you, no, I don't think he'll be on any list. Doesn't mean he can't be good. I just think, we already saw problems of both of them getting the ball last year, and Bobby Slowick comes over to be the QB coordinator or QB coach in Miami, which excites me a little bit because I think Bobby Slowick was a scapegoat in Houston last year. He was the Ben Johnson of the year prior. He could have had any starting head coach job he wanted, but he decided to stay one more year to do what Kingsbury's doing with JD5. Stay one more year, develop him more. So Bobby Slowick said, you know what? Screw going and getting a head coaching job. Let me go and help. I hear a bunch of noise in the background. Let me go and help this situation and or let me stay and help this situation grow. And then Stroud and the whole thing falls apart. And then Bobby Slowick is a scapegoat. I like him. I think he could help Tua. I think he could help this passing attack. But if you walk into this situation going, oh my God, well, Waddle's going to go to the moon. No one went to the moon. Achane did, but even Achane had those frustrating.
Jonah went to the moon.
He had those frustrating. Well, I mean, in the receiving room, he had those frustrating games. But Achane catching the ball, he still was involved. He still finished as a top 5 running back. Yes, Joe Nuba exploded, but this receiving room was struggling no matter what. So I don't know. I'm not gonna push my chips in on Tua making Waddle some superstar, and I don't know. Staying healthy is tough for Waddle. All right, Jordan, got to go around the phone line, bro. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, Smitty.
All right, go over to Ron. Ron, you're live. Then over to 229. Oh, is that Mark Cleveland? Is that you, Mark?
Yeah, I think it is.
Mark Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm here.
In the building. I'm here. All right, don't go anywhere. Let me go to Ron real quick. Ron, what's up? You're live.
What's up, Smitty?
What's up?
I don't know. I think we're overreacting to Tyreek Hill situation.
Why?
Why is? I mean, look at Mike Tyson and the problems he had with his ex-wife and his ex-wife's mother. I mean, it kind of seems like the same type of situation there. And the thing is Tyreek Hill, we're acting like he's fallen off so much. But we keep forgetting that Miami's offense looked like crap last year. Tua looked like crap last year. The whole offense didn't look great at all. He got almost 50 less targets last year. I mean, his previous bad year, where he had 87 receptions, he still was number 2 position receiver.
Yeah, but you can't.
And he had 81 receptions last year.
He's 30. He's 31 years old. He had a.
So what?
What do you mean? So what?
He's not a running back.
But
he's not
30,
a running back.
I know.
He's a receiver.
Right.
Receivers don't fall off.
Otherwise, we'd be talking about 28. Ron, 28's the fall off year for running backs. 30's the fall off year for receivers. So yeah, we're not talking about running backs. We're talking about receivers. 30 years old, Cooper Kupp.
No, because we got plenty of receivers out there that have been 31, 32, 33 that have that have done very
Very
well.
few. And with quick twitch wide receivers, their hamstrings
in one year where he drops off, and it wasn't all him, it was the scheme of things. We're gonna push him down, and not where previously 2023 he was number 2 position wide receiver. 22 he's 2.
Yes.
21 he was 6.
M.A. Smith was great
2020 he was 2nd.
That doesn't matter.
And then he was 31st in 2019. But then he was first the year before that.
He's 31 years old. He
had a bad year last year.
He's 31 years old. Is a head case, and who knows where he's even going.
How's he a head case?
How's he a head case?
Ron,
Ron, you're the only one in here. You're just trying to contrarian this thing again. That's all you're doing. Everyone in here will tell you.
I'm just wondering how he's a head case.
Ask the chat how he's a head case. The whole chat thinks he's a head case. So everybody. All 727 people in here think he's a. Put a thumbs up if he's a head case. Put a thumbs down if you think he's not a head case.
Mother-in-law.
No,
because his mother-in-law called the cops on him.
Because he's a locker room cancer. Come on, Ron. You're trying to contrarian this thing.
How's he a locker room cancer? He's not a locker room cancer.
Okay, Ron. Mark Cleveland, what's up, my boy? What do you think?
Move on from me. Spend all that time, but move on from me with my argument. Okay, I get it.
Ron, you're still on the phone line. You're calling in. You're calling in to argue it. I let you argue it. I'm not hanging out on you. You're on a phone line. I'm just circling around. Mark Cleveland's on the line. I'm just seeing what he thinks. Can he not get involved? You want to tell me how to run the show, Ron? I mean, I'm just trying to run around the phone line. I'll come back to you. You can.
I'm done.
You can butt in. You can butt in all you want. It's not a big deal. I just want Mark Cleveland before he hangs up. He hasn't called in for a long, long time. I want to make sure he doesn't have to.
I know. It's good to see Mark.
Mark, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been on here a pretty good while.
Yeah. Okay. Mark, what do you think of Tyreek Hill?
Well, I know last year you couldn't trade him and you couldn't hardly play him by the end of the year. Nobody didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
3/4 of the year, I guess he was hurt, but he sure wasn't putting up many fantasy points.
Outlaw, appreciate your new age. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, receivers, the thing about fast receivers like him, speedy receivers, they have a lot of hamstring issues as their career comes to a close. They usually have a quicker decline as well. Like you look at Deshaun Jackson, you look at these receivers that have that quick twitch. You always hear about paper-thin hamstrings. So being worried about an early drop-off with Tyreek is already on the mind. And then you mix in the fact that 30 is the year that 30 is the same for wide receivers as 28 is for running backs. Can you perform well at 30? Yes. Can you perform well at 28? Yes. Is it hard to as a receiver at 30 and a running back at 28? Yes. Can an anomaly slip through and we have to consider someone like Derrick Henry? Yeah, but it shouldn't change the overall perspective because the odds are at 28 if you've had tons of mileage. Not if you're Jerick McKinnon and you don't get any work until you're 29, 30 years old and you go out and have a good year or whatever. But those players tend to not be good anyway on a long-term basis because they never had the pedigree or the workload to prove they could hold up anyway. But usually 28. You had Christian McCaffrey last year at 28, boom. You had Austin Eckler at 28, boom. You had, but then you have a couple different scenarios like Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, 29. So it's tough. Aaron Jones, I believe, was 28 last year too. Played really well, but then we didn't get a full season of him. So 28's a concern. You can push through it. There's certainly anomalies, no doubt about it. Wide receiver, look at Mike Evans. Wide receiver, there are plenty of examples, but 32, you start really pushing it. 32 is very, 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 very rare. 33 is almost absolutely unheard of. So it just depends on the type of player. But Tyreek Hill, for me, fits the mold of a player that you should be more concerned about trying to do it at 31 than another player that isn't relying on that quick twitch and speed. He only knows one speed. That's 1,000 miles per hour. And you tend to have your hamstrings break down over time faster when you're using them the way that Tyreek uses them versus another route runner. But we'll see what happens. I mean, the guy had a hand injury but couldn't get the football. And so I've even said this. to Ron's defense even a little bit is that I can't explain in some ways why he didn't at least get targeted. But, the fact that he didn't complain about anything was wild too, because that was out of character for him until the end of the season. So part of me wonders if he didn't feel like he was doing enough to get into a position anyway to be able to complain. Like when your play isn't up to speed, if he was struggling with maybe another injury he hasn't told us about, I don't know what, but he wasn't complaining about not getting the ball. I think part of it was, he felt it was on him, which is why he didn't have the right to complain. But when the season was over, he mouthed off and said, I'm out of here, I'm done. He got frustrated, and then he since backed off on that. This situation, yeah, it might not amount to much. I started that from the beginning of the show, saying this could just be a mother-in-law situation, and I said that at the top. But he's been in a number of different situations already this offseason, through his career, and I just feel like his head isn't in the right place. I feel like he goes off on these wild little, tantrum social media tirades and creates problems for the locker room, creates problems for the team. You have a lot of little tiny reports which aren't, corroborated by any big network or anything, but where the Dolphins are getting sick and tired of his antics, and they are tempted to trade him from what we hear. But all this could be smoke and mirrors. We have no idea. But I do think Tyreek Hill presents a huge risk for anybody willing to spend second-round capital. So what it all comes down to, Ron, I understand your stance. You like Tyreek Hill, you want to give him a shot, but are you willing to give him a shot at 2.4? At 2.5? Because at the end of the day,
I agree.
It boils down to ADP.
I agree with Travis as far as Dynasty and you. I wouldn't draft him in Dynasty, but for a redraft league, hell yeah.
But you take him in 2.4?
He's still capable of being a top 3 wide receiver. He's still capable of it.
Okay. Well, I don't think so. I don't think we have the evidence of that.
His whole history shows that he's capable of it.
Ron, you can't
and last year, I mean, we see all the problems Miami had offensively.
You can't say Christian McCaffrey's. You got to consider McCaffrey being a number 1 overall running back. Like, you have to consider all the new.
Not this year.
Why? It's the same thing, Ron. I'm not.
No,
look. Yes, it is. I'm not drafting McCaffrey. I'm not drafting McCaffrey.
Can go pop at any time.
I'm not drafting McCaffrey.
Why am I gonna draft McCaffrey with his Achilles can go pop any time?
Because he's been running back 1.
Tyreek doesn't have that problem.
But he's been running back 1 before. That's what your Tyreek Hill argument feels like.
There's different circuits. You're not even making sense right now.
I am making sense.
We all know McCaffrey has the capability of having a career-ending injury, which we don't even think he'll be the same. Or Tyreek doesn't have that.
Well,
how can you compare those two?
Because I'm comparing the fact that you use the history to determine whether they can still do it when the history doesn't matter.
We all use history.
Well, McCaffrey,
he had one bad year. Look at Mahomes. Mahomes had a couple of bad years. He didn't look great.
Ron, you're trying to compare apples to oranges. Mahomes is a young man. We're talking about 31 years of age. You're not listening.
Really?
You're not listening. 31 years of age. Tyreek Hill, 31 years old. Okay? You're trying to use, he's been wide receiver 1 before. I don't know what's not computing here. I don't know. Am I not explaining it right? Maybe it's me. I'm not
just before.
I'm not sitting. But you're trying to bring Mahomes. You're trying to bring a young Mahomes into the conversation. We're talking about 31-year-old Tyreek Hill and using his history to predict him to do well at 31 years old. That's what we're talking about. You're trying to pull in Mahomes. Like I'm saying, when a player gets older, you can't say, this is what people did with Julio Jones. When Julio Jones got to that tipping point, people go, but he's Julio. Like, at some point, you got to walk away. And, yes, sometimes we'll walk away a year early. It happens. But Tyreek Hill is too risky. Off the field, on the field, he feels like he's going the Antonio Brown route.
No, he's not even close to Antonio Brown route.
Well, the early unveiling of him, the early signs of him, yeah. Constantly wanting out.
Come on,
constantly...
we can say that about every Diva receiver out there. We can say that about every Diva receiver out. We already know receivers are Divas to begin with. So Brown's in his own special category there. Along with
Ron, that's easy to say now when you know how bad it's gotten. You're like, again, I don't think you're hearing me. I'm saying this is the early.
We're going to use history now.
As I said, the early stages Antonio Brown unraveling. This feels like the beginning stages of Antonio Brown, when it was like, okay, he had a problem everywhere he was. His grass was always greener. He's getting. I mean, you don't think that his head is in the right? You think his head's in the right place right now?
I mean, we could say that about we could go all the way back to T.O. when T.O. was bouncing from team to team, San Francisco to Dallas, Dallas to Philadelphia, and yet T.O.'s the one that was on the field in the Super Bowl playing injured, and we could say the same thing. His head wasn't in the right place.
Take him around
He
two.
was causing all sorts of stuff.
Take him around two. You know who I'm taking around two? A much safer player. At the end of the day, even if you're right and Tyreek Hill isn't done like I think he could be, I'm still drafting a player that I like just as much with no risk, essentially, comparatively. Like everyone's got.
I'm not saying, Smitty, I'm not saying that you go all in and draft him in every single draft you're in, but I think you want shares of them. I don't think it's wrong to say you want shares of them.
I mean, it's not wrong. I just don't agree. But that's fine. That's fine.
I mean, especially like when you're playing underdog, you want shares of him. Take a chance on him. I mean, if you think he's going to fall off, just don't draft him as much. But still get shares of them. You know what I mean?
I'm okay with it.
I preach that all the time. Grab some shares.
I'd rather grab a bunch of different shares of safer players. I just think he's a kind of a ticking time bomb. So I'd rather grab as many shares of Bucky or as many shares of other players that like Kyron. I'd rather reach on Kyron than take Tyreek Hill at 2.4. And Kyron's going late in underdog. I'm just saying I'd rather have Bucky and then get Kyron in third round, of course. But I'm just saying if I feel like I can't get, let's say I have a early second round pick and I know Kyron's not going to fall to my third round pick, then I'm going to take Kyron before I take Tyreek Hill every time.
I understand the ADP thing you're talking about. I understand
but that's what it's all about.
I mean, that's why a couple of years ago you were stuck. Like you drafted almost every single draft. You drafted Kamara, even though his off the field crap was there and he's a head case. The ADP value allowed you to do that. You were taking a chance on him at his ADP.
You're confused. Round 4, no.
But and it's opposite here. You don't want to take an early round shot on Hill, but I'd still grab a couple shares of him. I wouldn't go as far as
I got you. I got you. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, like this example. By the way, Ben, I'm sorry you feel that way, Ben. You're gonna have a rude awakening. Garrett Wilson or Hill. Garrett Wilson all day. You know, that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's too many players. Garrett Wilson's going in the top of 3. Bottom of 2. I take Garrett Wilson all day long. I take JSN. And I don't take JSN at 2.4, but I'm just reiterating that, like, I'll switch the RB and wide receiver. So instead of Tyreek Hill, maybe I go Bucky or whatever, and then I'll take JSN later. So, yeah. All right, hold on one second.
Yeah, JSN. I think JSN's going to be great this year.
I'm sorry. Where did Mark? What else you got, pal? Glad to hear from you. By the way, where you been?
I've just been down here in South Georgia working.
Attaboy. We're glad to have you back.
I did a trade. Yes, sir. Actually, I did a trade with Tyreek Hill. And I gave up Tyreek Hill and George Pickens for Ricky Pearsall, Worthy, Gesicki, and a 3.3 in Dynasty. I did this about a month ago. And I was thinking I gave up too much the whole time, but I still don't know.
Ben,
I think I like that.
Ben, you're the one that's confused. We've already addressed this. You don't even know what you're talking about. We've already had this conversation. Go play in your ESPN mock draft. So Hill, Pickens, Worthy, Ricky, and your 3 point what?
A 3.3. I mean, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean,
It's Ricky Pearsall.
I like this because I like Worthy, but I think I try and trade this for a player that is maybe safer or, equal to the Pickens part. I like, even with Pickens being a head case, I like Pickens way more than I like Ricky. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't trade Pickens either. I'd trade Pickens or I would trade Ricky either way. So I would try, if you can move Ricky in a 3.3 for something a little bit better than that, then at the end of the day, Worthy and that player I'm going to love.
Okay, I got you.
Ben, stop! You're embarrassing yourself. Keep saying Tyreek's a 4th rounder. Ben, go keep drafting in your grandma ESPN league. Let the big boys draft where the big boys are drafting. Guys acting like he doesn't have a cemented in 2nd round ADP on Underdog or anywhere where people are spending actual money and not mock drafting against bad computer data and thinking it's really a 4th rounder. Ben, you'll figure it out. Mark left already. Mark, you jumped off the call in the middle of the analysis. Yeah, go try and trade Ricky in the 3.3. What could he get?
Some people are very high on Ricky. So
yeah, that's why I trade him.
Decent.
Personally, what I would try and do is trade a future 1st rounder with Ricky to try and get like that 1.2, 1.3, to get Trey Henderson or something. That'd be good.
Not bad idea.
Rashee Rice, suspension, the injury. I'd rather have Rice over Ricky in the 3.3. Mark, call back. Where'd you go? So if you could turn this into, and I know you got Worthy, but a Rice type player, that makes a lot of sense to me. Let me see if I can find another player since he's already got Worthy though. And I know Mark like nobody. So, and I know if Mark had both of them, he'd be constantly trying to trade one of them because he can't stand things like that. Having 2 players on the same team, it would bother him to the end of time. So let me find a different player. I think Harris
Smith.
Devontae Smith, yeah, that'd be good. DK Metcalf would be perfect. DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Travis Hunter, the pick for Travis or trade for Travis, T. Higgins maybe.
Go for different positions too.
Yeah.
He needs a different running back, tight end, stuff like that.
Najee Harris.
QB.
Najee Harris would be intriguing for 2 years. Sam Laporta in some sort of tight end upgrade situation. Quarterback upgrade. Mark. All right. Who else is on the phone line? I don't know why Mark bailed. But Mark, that's my answer, my boy. Appreciate you. Okay, what else we got? So Ronald drafted him in round 2. Everybody in the chat, drop where you would draft Tyreek Hill right now in the live chat. Put a specific pick if you can, like 2.4, 3.3, 4.4, 5.5, 6, and know that his ADP's in round 2. Don't listen to Ben. His ADP's in round 2, but just tell me where you take him. So essentially, even if you say 7.1, 6.5, you're telling me where your line in the sand is. So everybody drop their line in the sand in the chat, and let me go to Travis. Travis, where would your line be? Because my line would be, as I said at the top of the show, if he gets to the 4th round, we come back and we reassess. But that is a long ways away from his 2 point. Let me get his exact.
Yeah.
Where would you take him, Travis? Where's your line in the sand?
It would have to be. It'd probably have to be 5th round for me because I think I'm finding players at other positions I like in the 4th round, even if it's not a wide receiver. Yeah. Probably top of 5 and the 4.
So he's at
5.1.
So he's not at 2.4. He's at 22 overall. So 22 overall, which is, the closer you get to the 3rd round, the more that I think Ron and I could come to more of a compromise on a small amount. But I really think my line is really around 4, just because even though I could argue in almost like, stamp of approval, if someone wants to go in the 3rd round, I could say, sure. You want to go at 3.4? I stamp it approval on it. Wouldn't make you take a lap. Wouldn't scream at you. But I personally, when I get on the clock, I can't see myself taking Tyreek over McBride. I can't see myself taking Tyreek over Garrett Wilson, over Kyron Williams, over MHJ, over Breece Hall, over Josh Allen, over JD5, over so many of those players that I know that the third round will never be an option for me. So if he goes to round 4, I think that's where we come back in and we say, let's have a new conversation. Ben, why are you still talking? Why are you still talking? And why do you keep saying ESPN? No one cares about ESPN's mock draft data or the ADP ranking. Like, you're not listening. No one's concerning themselves with that. That is Mickey Mouse territory to go mock draft on ESPN and thinking that's where the values are. You're looking at a draft magazine from 2023, basically. And you keep saying it. Go look at ESPN. Go look at ESPN. Aren't you looking at ESPN? That's where you look, Smitty. Even though I've told you 10 times, stop with the ESPN. No one cares about his ESPN ADP. It doesn't even mean anything. When you're on the clock in a real draft and not mock drafting, he's going.
Ben's crazy. Ben's crazy. He says nobody plays underdog. He doesn't even know the numbers of people that play underdog.
Hey,
it's in the millions.
Ben, real quickly, just in the little board alone, the small draft, there are 188,000 entrants already in the little board, and that's just one tournament. Ben, I bet you maybe 11 people, including yourself, have actually done an 18 full round mock draft on ESPN to create that data you love so much. No one does underdog. No one does underdog. That's hilarious.
Why does underdog have the best ADP out there? Any ADPs you can find, underdog is like the most accurate ADP. You don't get that by not having a lot of people set those ADPs and underdog and the most accurate.
Yeah.
Ben, what? He doesn't even know what the heck he's talking about.
Let me school you a little bit, Ben, and just tell you that the data that you want is data that where people are paying money, because every mock draft is a league. Every single draft on here, someone's put in $5 or $10 or $25, and they're finishing it out. So the data is even great until the end. The only thing you will have is a discrepancy between some wide receivers like Tyreek Hill potentially, where they can fall in a non-best ball home league to 3.1, 3.4. It can happen. But you also have the discrepancy of big name player in mom and pop league like Tyreek Hill going way higher than he should, because people gravitate toward the big name when they don't study, they don't know anything. So Tyreek Hill is one of those players. But yeah, anyway, enough of Ben.
Here's the other thing. The other thing that everybody's got to watch out for the ADP right now is we're talking ADP prior to draft. Once these rookie players get drafted and we see where they go, that ADP is going to move up and down all over the place because of where these players go in the draft.
Yeah.
So even right now, the ADP is not going to stay the same. It can't.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So anyway, let me go back over here. Ben, I'm not answering you anymore. You're just distracting a very good live stream right now, so we're gonna ignore you. Perry says 3. Mark says 0. Perry says 3.2. Perry, you can make up your mind. Colin says 5.1. Darius says 7. Aldi says 3rd, early 4th. 8. Rock says 4.5. I just would rather have. Wouldn't rather have him over DK. So not one person said second round yet, right? The Bolt says 7.7. And again, no one's saying that he's gonna go there. They're just saying that's where their line would be. Okay, here's the second rounder. Blue says 2.9, which is right around his ADP. Joe says 4.1.
Yeah.
Darius, you already said. Anywhere in the third round, says Ben, before we stop listening to him. At least we got his real opinion there. Healing says 6.9. Jonathan says 3.3. New Age says 3.5. I'm going straight down. I'm not skipping anybody. King says 8.8.
Blue has to be Jordan, right? That call says
who?
Jordan Blue.
Oh.
Blue is Jordan, I called it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that makes sense.
Jordan Blue. Okay. So I mean that's a pretty good a pretty good sign that most people in here at least will not pay second round value, which is again what his ADP is 22 overall. Stop. I muted him because he kept giving bad information. I don't want anybody reading his comment thinking he's not in the second round. You might get him in the third though in home leagues. Like I said, it just kind of depends on how educated the group is. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like how up to date they are, because you will have a lot of people gravitate toward the name of Tyreek Hill in an inexperienced cram session magazine type drafter environment. Even if they're good drafters, but they don't have time, they're working individuals that take their job seriously, and they're constantly, unable to update themselves on everything. I could see Tyreek Hill going at the turn pick. That's the first, second round turn pick, or at 15 or 14 or 18. So it's going to be a mixed bag where you get him. I think what's going to be important for Tyreek Hill is your ability to get him in the third round in a home league where you're not drafting on Underdog, you're not drafting, on ESPN, obviously. Or if you are even drafting on ESPN, because like I said, just because they're bad ADP rank, sometimes I think the commissioner can even set what the pre-rank is going to be. Is it going to be projections? And I don't even know. Does anybody know if you're in a live draft, does it go off the rank by default, or because the mock draft does, but when you're in the actual draft, does it gear over to projections? Because if it does, you're going to be in a world of hurt if your pre-rank list is organized by projection, or somebody even sorts it by projections versus the ADP rank from the bad garbage mock drafts that you're doing over on ESPN. But we'll see. But again, his ADP in non-best ball will be contingent upon how high or low it goes from 22 overall. If this news doesn't amount to anything, and right now it doesn't feel like it's going to. That's what I said at the top of the show. There was no arrest. So it sounds like it's more of a mother-in-law's mad because he's yelling. Who doesn't yell during a fight? Now, throwing a laptop's different. I get that, but it doesn't mean that he's going to hurt somebody. It just means he's aggressive toward items, whatever. He can afford it. So he throws and breaks a laptop, but that doesn't mean he's getting arrested. He didn't get arrested, so this might not amount to anything. It probably won't hit the Schefter level or the Rappaport level. So the people that aren't digging deep will probably never hear about it unless CBS Sports and ESPN actually put a little note up like that he's been... but the note that they might put up would be that nothing's going to happen of it. It was cleared. The police are not going to pursue anything. Then I don't think anybody goes near it. What will also matter is if he gets traded. If he gets traded into a better situation, then his ADP will certainly climb from 22 overall. And in non-best ball, he won't have the potential to fall to the 3.1, 3.2.
Will your view on him change if he were to get traded? Well, let's say he gets traded to Buffalo, or he gets traded back to Kansas City, or he gets traded to New England with May on the rise, or a place like that. Does your view of him change?
Of course, my point of entry changes, but it doesn't mean I'm drafting him over a majority of the players I've already said. So that means that if right now I'm saying fourth round, I would have to, I don't even say I'd take him in fourth round. I'm saying that's where I think I say, okay, let's get back to the drawing board and see what's what, because the values change. But I think if he goes to KC, I'm not as excited about it. There's a crowded wide receiver room. And I think, just because he's Tyreek Hill, I mean, Rashee Rice and Worthy are on the rise. So this is a very crowded environment. If he goes to the Patriots, I like it, but I don't know that it makes me feel like I don't know. I don't know it's the environment everybody thinks it's going to be for him. I also think that if he goes somewhere like Buffalo, we could see the same thing that happened to Amari Cooper. Where it's like, I don't think Amari Cooper was done yet. I think he just went to a situation where this is like ring around the rosy. Let's throw it all over the place. Let's not get anybody involved. I think he could have a better year than he just had, 900 yards and 6 touchdowns. But does that put him in the third round yet for me? I don't know. So it depends where he goes, Ron. My guess is he would go somewhere where it's going to be a mixed bag. Like he goes to the Ravens or something, he can't do well there. He could do well in spots. He could help them win. He could be a possession guy in the playoffs and then push them over the edge, but is he going to be consistent all year long? What if he went to a team like the Raiders, you know?
The Buccaneers. What if he went to the Buccaneers?
That's horrible.
With Baker.
That's horrible because they got Evans and Godwin and Tyreek Hill. There's no way. And McMillan. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, Evans is not as fast as he used to be.
Yeah, but you don't think they're going to be like right at the same.
And he's older too.
Yeah, he's the one guy that fits that anomaly, situation. He certainly has created a little ambiguity of the cutoff. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, look, Derrick Henry, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams is 32, I think. These are anomalies, and in some cases, you got to say to yourself, what is the unique thing about all three of those guys? The anomalies. Derrick Henry, his size is so unbelievably different than the average player. He even slower can just steamroll over people, and he's been doing it. And he could do it again for one more year. We just don't know. Mike Evans, big body wide receiver that can catch anything in a jump ball situation. Devontae Adams, mind, route running specialist. Probably the best in the league, most would say. Tyreek Hill, he's if he loses his step, he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have that ability, and we've seen him vanish before, obviously. So if he doesn't have the quarterback and he loses the step, then I don't know. It becomes harder because he doesn't have those intangibles that live outside of quickness and speed. So it makes it harder. Plus, there's the injury factor for me. So I don't know that he'll be an anomaly playing at 33 years old. Also, keep in mind, Tyreek Hill said he was going to retire at 30 years old. Remember when he said that? I don't know what happened to that, but he said he's going to retire at 30.
He said 2 years. Yeah. 2 years he was going to retire.
So, I don't know.
What about your Cardinals? What if the Cardinals were to go out and get him alongside of MHJ?
I don't think he'd be a good fantasy asset on the consistent. But it's funny you say that because I'm probably going live today at 8 p.m. on the Arizona Cardinals. So there's going to be a lot of Cardinal talk at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So look forward to that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. It's positive.
Yeah,
it's
you
positive.
usually don't talk about them too much.
And it's positive, too. I've been looking into it. Look, Kyler's been impressive in some interviews lately. I've been looking into it. I've been watching him. He seems like he's absorbing. I'm really hard on Kyler. I've gone back and forth on whether I think he can take it to the next level. I'll always say whenever I tear Kyler down almost every single time, I'll always be very careful to say he has the talent to be as good as anyone in the National Football League. He's the most one of the most physically gifted players in the league athletically, but he can't seem to do it for more than 8 games. If he does amazing, it's for 8 games and then he gets hurt or something like that. But I got a little more optimism for MHJ and Kyler and the Cardinals going in at 8 p.m. and I'll explain why. All right, Mark Cleveland, I don't think he's calling back. He deuced out in the middle of the call. That's why I was wanting to go to him early, Ron, because sometimes I feel like he'll call in and he'll hang up, or he'll call in and he can't stay long or something. So I was trying to run over to him before that happened. But Mark, you can call back real quick if you want, real fast. I can explain to you again what I would do. But I think DK Metcalf using your Ricky Pearsall and even a second rounder would be a phenomenal move. DK, what do we say? DK, Pickens, Devontae Smith, DK, Travis Hunter, if you could get that pick or trade for him later. T. Higgins, I said.
I'm still leery on DK until we know what the quarterback situation is.
Well, I think it's going to either be Shador or it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. I hope.
Yeah, I've heard talking the last couple of days Shador too. But the thing about Sanders is I don't know if you agree with this or not. He's very accurate his mid-range accuracy is great, but he has problems with the long ball and his accuracy and spotting the ball right.
Yeah,
I don't know if you agree with
yeah,
that,
I don't
but
really
I think
feel
that's
that.
one of his.
I feel like it's a
bad points.
narrative that people paint about him, but he also, played inside a certain offense that did things a certain way, and he showed tremendous accuracy at the Colorado Showcase. He was threading the needle. I think a lot of times what he would do too is throw a ball that he probably would never throw if Travis Hunter weren't catching it. I think that's where some of that comes.
Yeah, Travis Hunter made him look really good.
Yeah, but they made each
Because
other
Travis
look good.
catch
But
balls that nobody.
yeah, but he would throw ones that I think he won't in the NFL because, unless he has that receiver, which DK would be that guy. Hey, DK.
Well, I think
it's
part of his problem going down the field is his arm strength. I don't think he has the arm strength.
Everyone
yet.
says that.
That can improve. That can be worked on, but
it can. But why do people say that? He's throwing.
I think his arm strength.
But I don't agree, though. I don't agree his arm strength is bad. I don't understand why.
Because if you actually watched him in the playing, when he threw the ball downfield, a lot of times it would come up short. The receiver would have to turn and come back to the ball. He had a lot of plays like that. I'm just trying to keep it honest.
I hear
but
you. But
when it was mid range, he was really, really good.
I hear you.
He excelled in mid range.
I hear you, and I agree with the mid range. But I feel like people want to tear this kid down so badly. And I'm not saying you do, Ron. I'm saying
I don't want to tear him down.
I know, but I think people saying it is making a lot of people repeat it. And I think if you especially go watch his Colorado Showcase, he has no arm strength problems. And I don't know, and this ball padding thing, is just ridiculous narrative. Everyone just wants to see him fail because they hate Deion Sanders so much. And all these reports that Shedeur is an arrogant kid. I've looked into a lot of that too. And honestly, every single video clip of this kid talking, he seems like such a well-mannered kid. And there's so many reports about like limo drivers driving him around. He's just so professional and kind and caring and thoughtful and everything. Like it bothers me how this narrative is being painted about Shedeur. And it makes me want to root for him more. So, but we'll see where he goes. He definitely needs to go somewhere great. I don't think he could go to Tennessee and be great for a year. I mean, in year one, he'd probably have a bad year. I think if he goes to the New York Giants is the best spot because he'll have Dable and Neighbors, and I think he'll way outperform Cam Ward as a rookie. I think if he goes to Pittsburgh, I do have some concerns about, as you said, Pittsburgh not developing quarterbacks, but I do think that this is a kid that's special. You haven't really seen them have a quarterback to develop at this level for a while. So how can we really fully say that they would fail when you're talking about Pickett? You're talking about guys like I'm not considering those good prospects. So if Shedeur went here, played with DK, even if Pickens stayed, even if Pickens didn't stay, I think it's a really good place, and I think he outperforms Ward by a lot in Pittsburgh. And I think you go to the playoffs again. Now, how far do you go in the playoffs? I don't know. All right, Ron, I'll be back at 8 p.m. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. I like Deion Sanders. I liked his attitude, but Shedeur doesn't have the same flamboyant attitude as his dad, so I can't pin that type of thing on him. I mean, Deion always backed up his. I mean, whether he played. I mean, how many play football, defense, offense, and play baseball and do all the things that his dad did, and he was always flamboyant, always talkative. Shedeur's not like that. So I agree with you there.
I like Shedeur a lot. All right, you just got to move up. You're not going to probably get him at 21. You could. A free fall could happen anywhere if the right teams pass on him, and then he just like he would fall all the way through to the roadblock would be the Colts at 14. And then he could free fall all the way to the Steelers for sure, or the Seahawks could take him at 18 because it would just be too hard to pass up. So there is the Colts and Seahawks roadblock, but really the true roadblock upstream would be the Saints at 9, and the Raiders will even consider him, I think personally, but they probably won't at the end of the day because of their commitment to Geno. But I think I think you're looking at the Saints at 9, or the Giants. That would be the 2 top 10 spots, I think, most likely. Then it's really just the Colts, but a team could trade up, like a team like the Saints or the Giants even could come in from the second round and try and grab the spot right here in front of the 20s, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. All right, Ron, call back at 8 p.m. We'll see you later.
All right. Yeah, I'm losing my voice.
All right.
Later, Travis.
Rest it up.
See you, Ron.
All right, final thoughts? Travis?
No, I'm all set. I'll talk to you tonight.
All right, later, bro.
Later.
All right, appreciate you all. Thank you all for being here. And I'll see you at 8 p.m. So far, no arrests, nothing crazy with the situation, but it's certainly something we need to consider, and just makes Tyreek a little bit more of a risk at that second round ADP. See you all 8 p.m.